have control of your spider with me all the time, like a talisman.
Please stop getting so close to his face. Ah, Chaser. You try so hard, but you just keep falling flat on your face. Developed by Cauldron and published by Jowood Productions, Chaser struggles in a lot of aspects. You are John Chaser, Rebel Extraordinaire, awaking on Majestic Station in Earth orbit with your memories in shambles and hunted by Mars security forces. Chaser's story revolves around him trying to figure out who the hell he is, with a lot of killing along the way. The game was remarkably stable with only a couple of crashes. It weirdly asks you for a CD key on the first time startup on Steam, but ran perfectly fine after that. The options are quite adequate. Being a fairly old game, there's nothing stopping you from cranking everything up to maximum. The ability to have a second keybind for hotkeys is a nice bonus, and there's a variety of crosshairs that are available to use. Chaser is a pretty standard first-person shooter. There are a lot of guns to try out and play around with. Pistols, SMGs, assault rifles, snipers, a single-shot grenade launcher, and a quad-shot rocket launcher. There's a nice variety. Most weapons have alternate fire modes, and this rifle even fires rockets, which spices up the shooting a little bit. Explosives are in pretty good supply, although direct hits seem to deal less damage than collateral damage. Bit weird. Where it falls apart is when you notice that all the guns are old. This game is set around 2150, and none of the guns make it seem that way at all. I mean, it's a Mach 10. Once you get to Mars, you'd expect some more exotic weapons, but other than a change in sound effects, none of these felt very exotic either. There's also times like these. Yes, those casings are flying out the wrong side of the gun. The guns have an additional issue. These sound effects sound a lot like stock gun noises. Weapon pickup sounds also sound like I've heard them somewhere before. It's not bad on the ears, but quite noticeable. Graphically, it's bland to say the least. It came out in 2003 and can be forgiven a little bit, but there's a plethora of other shooters that came out before and just a year after that just look much better. Grey is the colour of choice throughout. Grey guns, grey walls, grey floors. Ooh, that's not great. Wait, now everything is rust red. The vision blocking fog is back. Unlike Wolfenstein, it's a good thing it's there, as the alternative is... Okay, I want the fog back. Most of the environments are pretty barren, and the few props that are around are so low poly it's difficult to tell what they're supposed to be at times. It's not all bad though. There are a few moments where everything comes together and it looks quite good. The weather effects, destroyed buildings, and inclusion of junk props here makes this level one of the best looking of the game. You don't realise how important having small things littered around is until there's an absence of it. And that makes this level one of the most character filled in the whole game. Space was pretty cool for the short period you're in it, and the interior of this Mars base is surprisingly well detailed in comparison to the levels surrounding it. But these small moments don't make up for the rest of the levels, which feels a lot like filler. Which gets us into the level design. Chaser is mostly a corridor shooter, but despite having a single direction to go in 90% of the time, it is stupidly easy to get lost, as every corridor looks virtually identical in a level. Doors that lead into dead ends, corridors that seem to just end with a tiny hole to indicate where to go. The few times when levels open out are even worse, with very little signposting as to where you actually need to go. You land on top of this building and you'd expect to go in one of the doors? Nope. What about across the way? Nope. Turns out you need to jump off the building and walk away. Odd decisions like this litter the game, and everything looking the same combined with the fog makes it even worse. There are night vision goggles. They aren't used all that often, but they work really well. Using them in bright lights will outright blind you, and staring into lights in the dark will cause the whole screen to flare up a little. A nice little touch. The vague objectives given rarely help in navigating. At one point skipping the current objective, pushing through to the next objective, spending 20 minutes wandering around trying to figure out what to do, and eventually giving up and pulling up a walkthrough. Only to find out that I had missed a small shack to go in.
The gate control isn't working. It can't be opened from here.
It works, but there isn't enough energy to open the gate. You must find the generators and increase their output. I will tell you how when you get there.
Health kits and armor packs are extremely rare on some levels, but enemies can drop small packs to keep you going. Armor was a bit weird. Weird describes so much in this game. It drastically reduces the amount of health damage taken, but occasionally only armor would be damaged, or only health. No idea how that works. There's also a lot of tropey levels. Early on there's a stealth level, a defense level, escort sniper tower, legging it, and one of the worst levels I have ever seen. Underwater. The previous tropes succeed and fail in their own ways. I wish that truck would move faster. But the underwater level was physically nauseating, and combined with its maze-like nature, it's just terrible. In every way. Even the combat feels tacked onto it. Near the end, you'll be given an exosuit to play around with, but the level is designed so that if you leave the door you're supposed to be guarding, you automatically lose. I thought initially I let someone sneak through, but no, there's no one there. So I had to stand on the spot like a glorified turret. If you haven't already noticed, the AI isn't what you would say good. Enemies frequently won't move, turning them into turrets, and their only other tactic to run at you, guns blazing. Enemy accuracy is fairly inconsistent. You can clearly see them firing bullets at me like a laser beam, but most shots don't register. It makes combat extremely random at times, as it's impossible to tell if you'll get hit or not. Rapid firing weapons compound the effect just from the sheer number of additional bullets in the air. Bullets erupt from their heads rather than their guns, and the combined laser beam gunfire can make killing an entrenched enemy a long game of quick save, quick load, trial and error. This gets worse the further into the game you go, where enemies go from being fairly easy one-hit headshots to far more beefy 2-3 headshots and a whole load of bullets to the chest. The difficulty levels vary the amount of damage taken from enemies significantly, from being a walking tank on easy to paper mache dead in 2 seconds on hard. There's a nice variety of enemies, but nothing truly distinguishes them from being anything other than dude with gun, other than the exosuits, which enter the game far too late. They also have a habit of spawning out of nowhere. There are a couple of bosses along the way. Calling them bosses is a bit of a stretch though. In reality, they're just tougher dudes with guns, and quickly melt to adrenaline mode. Adrenaline mode is what makes the game really fun, and the enemies in Chaser from being an absolute nightmare to fight against, giving you the edge against the AI and their auto-aiming madness. It lasts a fairly long time and can be switched on and off at will. The long length is balanced out by an anemic charge speed, but this never felt like an issue at any point throughout. Kinda great when ambushed. Remember the filler levels I mentioned earlier? Well, they tie into the story. It's a bit of a mess. There are a few twists to it, so if you wish to avoid spoilers, zoom ahead to this time here. All gone? It's basically Total Recall. No, really, it's Total Recall, but with Tommy Wiseau? Wiseau? I don't know how to pronounce his name. As the director. Not much is explained until the very end of the game, but subtle hints throughout hint that Chaser isn't really Chaser. Memories of another man, guardian angels in the shadows. At the end of the game, it's revealed that Chaser is actually a character introduced earlier called Stone, who had killed Chaser and then had his memories implanted into himself in an effort to infiltrate the Mars rebels trying to overthrow Mars Corp leader Longwood. The plan was to have Mike, a Mars Corp agent, take Chaser, but really Stone, to Shimako to activate his old memories. But an assault by the rebels on the space station throws that plan into disarray, resulting in not Chaser being thrown into drama with a gang called the Family. A few missions from a family later, a little nudging by Mike, and an accidental fatality, Chaser is put into contact with Kabir for a trip to Mars. This is where the filler kicks in. There is a lot of nothingness until Kabir betrays you and leaves Chaser for dead. But you're conveniently rescued by your guardian angel. Some revenge and a spaceship later, and Chaser is taken down by Mike, whose allegiances are revealed. Chaser is taken to a prison cell where an old rebel friend is, and it's here where the obviousness of the trap is revealed, with Mike and Longwood watching in from the sidelines. One prison escape and a foiled assassination later, Chaser is finally introduced to the rebel base. Of course, Mars Corp follows him and kills pretty much everyone. Not Chaser reaches the rebel leader too late to save him. Longwood has already captured him and proceeds to explain his plan. For some reason, on realizing that Chaser isn't really Chaser, Chaser decides to still go through with Longwood's orders. Before being shot himself. Chaser does not have a happy ending, and while its pacing is horrendous, the cutscenes having weird odd angles, and it can't stay consistent with what year it says on the store page, but there was a B-movie charm to it, with a few twists that I wasn't expecting, and an ending that's a rarity nowadays, where the bad guys actually win. You can take off the earmuffs and paper bag now, spoilers or whatever. Finally, there's the soundtrack. It's an enjoyable mix of electronic cyberpunk with a few hints of creepiness added in. It's lost in the background frequently, but it adds to the charm of Chaser. That of Chaser being incredibly weird. And that's what carries Chaser from being a bad game to being just an average one. It has its flaws, both minor and severe, but despite that, there are some great moments to be had with that B-movie charm, and it's worth at least a single playthrough to experience it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, feel free to subscribe or share the channel around. I am planning on making a review every month on average, so look forward to regular videos.